Have you ever walked away from a conversation thinking, why did I say that? Or worse, if only I had stayed silent. We live in a world that rewards loudness. The louder you speak, the more you're heard. But what if I told you the wisest people in history chose silence instead? Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, believed that silence isn't weakness, it's strength. Not speaking doesn't mean you've lost. Sometimes it means you've already won. Think about this. Have you ever been unfairly criticized and felt the burning urge to defend yourself? Or maybe you were in a room full of arrogant people, bragging about things you quietly mastered. Yet you stayed quiet, and it hurt. This video isn't just about silence, it's about strategic silence, powerful silence, the kind of silence that protects your peace, commands respect, and turns chaos into clarity. Today, we'll explore 9 specific situations where choosing not to speak could be the smartest, strongest thing you do. Situations where silence becomes your greatest defense and your greatest teacher. If you've ever regretted speaking too soon, or too much, you're not alone. But what if the next time you didn't? Let's uncover the Stoic secret to mastering life, not through noise, but through knowing when to be silent. Case 1. When you're unfairly criticized. Let's be honest, no matter how kind you are, how hard you work, or how much you try to do the right thing, you will, at some point, be criticized unfairly. And when that moment comes, it hurts. Maybe it's your boss calling out your work without knowing the full story. Maybe it's a friend or family member making a harsh judgment that doesn't reflect who you really are. And your natural instinct to jump in, to defend, to explain, to say something, anything, to clear your name. But here's the thing. According to Marcus Aurelius, when someone insults you or judges you unfairly, the problem isn't really the insult, it's how you choose to see it. He wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Let that sink in for a second. You don't control what people say, you control your response. And sometimes, the wisest response is no response at all. Instead of defending yourself impulsively, try doing this. Pause, breathe, observe, ask yourself, is there truth in this? If yes, great, learn from it. If not, let it go. It doesn't deserve space in your mind. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're leading a project at work. You've poured your heart into it, late nights, problem-solving, team coordination. But in a meeting, your boss dismisses it, says it's not good enough. You feel the sting, the embarrassment, maybe even rage bubbling up. But instead of snapping back or over-explaining, you stay quiet. You take notes, you nod, you say, "Thank you for the feedback, I'll take a closer look." Now 2 things happen. First, you keep your dignity. Second, you gain clarity. Later, with a calm mind, you sort through the comments and you find parts you can actually improve on while tossing out the nonsense. That's Stoicism in action. Epictetus said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." That means we don't have to argue with every critic. We let our actions, our results, and our peace of mind speak louder. By choosing silence, you shift the power dynamic. You move from being reactive to being in control. You show maturity, you show strength, and more importantly, you protect your energy. You don't waste it on proving yourself to someone who's already made up their mind. Remember, criticism will always be part of life, but not every criticism deserves your voice. Let your silence say, "I know who I am. I don't need to explain myself to be at peace." That's the power of strategic silence. That's the wisdom Marcus Aurelius lived by. And it's available to you right now in every moment you feel misunderstood or attacked. The question is, will you fight back? Or will you pause, stay still, and let your strength shine in silence? Case 2. When you're surrounded by boasting and bragging. Let me paint a picture. You're at a networking event or a family gathering. Someone walks up and starts going on and on about how successful they are. Their raise, their vacation, their grind set, their new business, their expensive car. and you're just standing there, listening. Part of you wants to smile politely, but another part of you wants to jump in and say, well, actually, I just landed a big client too. Or I just finished a huge project at work. I've been crushing it lately. It's tempting, right? But Stoicism teaches us something different. You don't have to match noise with noise. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that virtue doesn't need validation. He believed that greatness lies in who you are, not in who notices. So when someone brags, it's not your job to compete. It's your chance to practice silence, not out of weakness, not because you have nothing to say, but because your silence shows strength. It shows you don't need attention to know your worth. It shows you're grounded enough to let others shine without dimming your own light. Let me give you a real-world example. Say you're in a team meeting and one of your coworkers starts showing off. They exaggerate their impact, take credit for group work, and talk like they're the reason the company still exists. You know the truth, but instead of correcting them in front of everyone, you just stay calm. You focus on the work, you let your results speak. A few weeks later, the manager reviews the actual performance numbers, and it's your name that shows up in the data. It's your effort that speaks volumes without you saying a word. That's power. That's Stoic silence in action. You see, when you refuse to brag, you free yourself from the endless race of validation. You gain something better than approval. You gain peace. Epictetus once said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. That sounds harsh, but what it really means is, let go of the need to prove yourself. Because here's the truth, the louder someone boasts, the more they often need to. And the quieter you become, the more confident you truly are. So the next time someone starts bragging in front of you, don't feel the need to jump in with your own story. Just smile, nod, and remember, real power doesn't need to be spoken, it's felt. Let your work speak. Let your values speak. Let your presence speak. And if you're really wise, let your silence do the loudest talking in the room. Case 3. We've all been there. Someone cuts you off in traffic. A coworker messes up your work. Again, a friend says something hurtful or careless. And in that moment, you feel it. The heat rising in your chest, the tight jaw, the clenched fists, your brain's shouting, say something, fight back. Don't let them get away with it. But here's where the Stoics challenge us to pause. Marcus Aurelius wrote, how much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it? Think about that. It's not just the thing that made you mad that hurts you. It's what you do because you're mad. Because one outburst, one passive-aggressive comment, one impulsive text or email can destroy relationships, reputations, and even your own peace of mind. Anger feels powerful in the moment, but silence is power with control. Let me share a story you might relate to. A team leader I once knew was overseeing a big project, weeks of work, tight deadlines. On the final day, one teammate accidentally deleted the main file. Gone, completely. You can imagine how furious he was. Everyone expected him to explode. But instead, he sat still, he didn't yell, didn't accuse, didn't shame anyone. He said, let's take a breath, we'll figure it out. And they did. That silence wasn't weakness. It was leadership. It set the tone. It calmed the room. And guess what? The team came together stronger after that. That's Stoicism in real life. It's not about pretending you're not angry. It's about choosing what to do with that anger. The Stoics give us tools for this. Self-awareness. What exactly triggered this feeling? Perspective. Will this matter in a week? A year? Empathy. Could they be acting from their own pain or stress? Detachment. This anger is a feeling, not a command. Response. What would a wise person do right now? You don't have to suppress how you feel. You just don't have to act on it immediately. A well-timed silence can protect your job, your relationship, even your self-respect. And if you need inspiration, just look at people like Nelson Mandela, imprisoned for 27 years. Beaten, humiliated, but when he was released, he chose peace. He chose unity. He chose silence, not out of fear, but as a revolutionary act of strength. So the next time anger shows up knocking, don't let it take the wheel. Take a breath, say nothing, and let your silence be the proof that you're not controlled by others, you're led by your own mind. Because when you master your reaction, you master your life. Case 4. When you're falsely accused. Few things feel more frustrating or more unfair than being blamed for something you didn't do. It could be a coworker throwing you under the bus, a friend misunderstanding your intentions, or even online rumors twisting your words into something you never meant. The immediate instinct to speak up, defend, prove your innocence. And sure, sometimes that's needed, but the Stoics offer a powerful alternative. Don't rush to defend yourself. Let time and truth do the talking. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." In other words, you don't always control what others say about you, but you do control your reaction. And often the strongest reaction is silence. Here's a story. A teacher I know was once accused falsely of favoritism by a student's parent. Rumors spread quickly. Other parents started whispering. She wanted to send a message to every family explaining herself, but instead she did something wiser. She kept quiet, she stayed focused on her work, she treated every student equally, with grace and fairness. Weeks later, the story faded. People saw the truth for themselves without her having to say a word. The same parent eventually apologized. That silence wasn't passive, it was strategic. It allowed her actions to speak louder than 1,000 explanations ever could. Now, to be clear, this isn't about staying silent in the face of injustice or real harm. If your reputation or safety is at stake, speak wisely and assertively. But in petty drama, baseless rumors, or unprovable accusations, silence can protect your peace and preserve your dignity. Let's be real. Most people don't believe rumors because they're true. They believe them because they're loud and emotionally charged. So when you react emotionally, you add fuel to the fire. But when you stay calm and grounded, you confuse the drama. You break the cycle. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." Translation: live your truth. Don't argue it. Because here's the secret. Truth doesn't beg to be believed. It just stands quietly, patiently, until it's the only thing left. So the next time someone throws shade your way, pause. Ask yourself, is this worth my energy, or will my character speak for me? And then do the bravest thing of all, say nothing. Stay focused. Let your actions be the answer. Because sometimes, the greatest defense isn't a loud rebuttal. It's a life so consistent, so honest, and so true, that no lie can survive next to it. That's Stoicism. That's strength. And that's the kind of silence that echoes louder than any accusation ever could. Case 5. When you're dealing with loss. Loss is one of those things no one escapes. It could be the loss of someone you love, the end of a relationship, a job you poured yourself into, even a version of yourself you've outgrown. And when it happens, people rush to fill the silence with words. Everything happens for a reason. They're in a better place. You'll be fine. But the truth is, sometimes words don't help. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do in the face of grief is to be silent, to sit with the pain, to let it move through you instead of around you. To give yourself permission to feel without rushing to fix. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. He wrote, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight." That doesn't mean it won't hurt, but it does mean that loss is part of the natural rhythm of life. And silence, intentional silence, gives you space to process that rhythm. Let me tell you a story. A friend of mine lost her father unexpectedly. At the funeral, everyone kept trying to say the right thing. But the only moment she really remembered was when someone just sat beside her. No words, just presence, just silence. And that moment, it brought more comfort than any well-meant speech ever could. Silence can be sacred, it can be healing. In a noisy world that tells us to stay strong and move on, Stoicism offers something radical. Feel everything, but react with purpose. Instead of filling the emptiness with distractions or forced positivity, you pause, you write in a journal, you sit in nature, you cry if you need to, you remember, and eventually, you find your way forward, not because you pushed the pain away, but because you understood it. Seneca, another great Stoic, once said, "The day you fear as your last is the birthday of eternity." Loss is not the end, it's a transformation, a shift, a return. So how do you apply this now? Maybe you're going through a breakup. Instead of posting cryptic quotes or arguing over texts, log off. Sit with the silence, reconnect with your values. Maybe you've lost a job. Rather than telling everyone how unfair it was, give yourself space to grieve, then rebuild, quietly, patiently. You don't owe anyone your pain in words, you just owe yourself the time to honor it. And in that silence, you'll start to hear something new. Clarity, meaning, growth. So the next time you face loss, don't rush to explain it or escape it. Just be still, let silence carry what words cannot, and trust, like the Stoics did, that even in the quiet, life is still unfolding. Case 6, when you're surrounded by ignorance. Let's be real, sometimes you walk into a room, a comment thread, or even a dinner conversation, and you immediately realize this is not a place for logic. People speaking with confidence but not with facts, shouting opinions as if they were universal truths, correcting you without understanding you, or worse, mocking you for staying calm. And your first urge? To step in, to prove them wrong, to drop that perfect fact that'll shut the whole room up. But here's what the Stoics teach us. Silence isn't surrender, it's strategic. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." That means when someone speaks from ignorance, arrogance, or ego, you don't have to match it. You rise above it. Because when someone's committed to misunderstanding you, no explanation will ever be enough. But your silence, it speaks volumes. Here's a simple example. Let's say you're at work and a colleague is making bold, incorrect claims about a project you know inside and out. They're loud, confident. You're tempted to jump in and dismantle every point they make, but instead, you pause, you listen, you say nothing in the moment. Then, in private, you calmly share the facts with the people who actually need to know. Guess who earns more respect in the long run? Not the one who made a scene. The one who kept their cool. The one who knew when to speak and when. This doesn't mean you should never stand up for truth or correct misinformation, but the Stoics believed in choosing your battles. You don't throw wisdom at someone who isn't ready to receive it. Seneca said it is a great thing to know the season for speech and the season for silence. Wisdom isn't about always speaking. It's about knowing when it's worth it. Ask yourself, is this person really open to hearing another view? Or are they just trying to win an argument? Will my silence actually say more than any words ever could? Sometimes the most powerful move you can make is to keep quiet and let people expose their own ignorance, not out of pride, but out of clarity. You don't need to prove yourself in every conversation. You don't need to educate people who are committed to not learning. Your energy is precious. Protect it. The truth doesn't need to yell to be true. It just needs time and the right ears. So the next time you find yourself surrounded by arrogance or loud ignorance, take a deep breath, say less, smile if you want, and walk away, knowing you chose wisdom over ego. Because being right is good, but being wise, that's freedom. Case 7, when gossip is spreading around you. Let's talk about gossip. It's everywhere, at work, in family circles, online comment sections, sometimes even in your own group of friends. And it's tempting. It feels harmless at first, just talking. But suddenly, you're pulled into a conversation where someone else's name is being tossed around like a ball at a party. And the moment comes, someone turns to you and says, "What do you think?" Here's where Stoic wisdom kicks in. You don't have to answer. You don't have to add to the noise. In fact, the wisest thing you can do is simple. say nothing. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Let others talk about what they will. Just remain focused on your path." Why? Because the moment you engage in gossip, you become part of the chain, part of the distortion. Words can get twisted, intentions can be misunderstood, and reputations, once damaged, can take years to rebuild. But when you stay silent, you break the chain. You refuse to let your energy be used to tear someone else down. Here's a real-world example. A friend of mine once worked at a company where everyone gossiped about their manager. They would share rumors, jokes, even imitate her behind her back. He never participated. He just stayed quiet or changed the subject. People thought he was being too serious. But a year later, guess who was promoted? That same manager, who'd heard everything, except one name, his. Silence protected his reputation, and more than that, it showed character. Stoicism reminds us that your words shape your world, and when you speak carelessly about others, you weaken your own integrity, even if you're technically right. Now let's be honest, it's not always easy. When you hear someone talking badly about you, it takes real strength to not fight back, to not post a response, to not call them out. But again, ask yourself, will saying something help or just stir the pot? Will I feel better for a moment and regret it tomorrow? The Stoics believed in self-mastery, and gossip is one of those tests because it's not about them. It's about you, your values, your peace. Here's what you can do instead. If you hear gossip, redirect the conversation. If you're being asked to comment, say something neutral or say nothing at all. If someone gossips about you, let your actions clear the air, not your words. Because in the end, people forget rumors, but they remember how you made them feel. And someone who refuses to gossip, that person earns trust. So next time you're surrounded by whispers, choose silence. It's not because you're afraid, but because you're grounded. Let others waste their breath. You protect your soul. Case 8, when you're being provoked or insulted. Here's the situation. You're minding your own business, maybe at work, online, or even at home, when someone throws a verbal jab your way. A sarcastic comment, a passive-aggressive remark, or worse, a flat-out insult meant to trigger you. You feel that rush, your heart beats faster. Your brain starts crafting the perfect comeback. But before you speak, stop, because this is a test of ego, a test of self-control, a test of wisdom. And according to Marcus Aurelius, you already have everything you need to pass it. He wrote, "You don't have to turn this into something. It doesn't have to upset you." That's huge, because in that moment you realize the insult is theirs, the reaction is yours. Let me share a real story. Gandhi, during his movement for Indian independence, was constantly insulted, both publicly and privately. People tried to provoke him into anger, but he stayed calm, peaceful, silent. Not because he was weak, but because he was laser-focused on his purpose. And the moment he got pulled into petty fights, he would lose the bigger mission. That's powerful. So here's the takeaway. When someone tries to drag you into their emotional chaos, don't go. Your silence isn't giving in. It's rising above. Think about it like this. If someone throws mud at you and you throw it back, you're both dirty. But if you stay still, let it fall and keep walking, you show strength. And people notice that. Let's say your coworker takes a cheap shot at you in front of others. You could snap back, embarrass them, win the moment. But what if you pause, say nothing, look them in the eye, and move on? Now they look petty. You look powerful. Silence in moments like this is a shield. It protects your dignity. It protects your peace. It reminds you, I'm not controlled by this person's mood. Now, I get it. You don't want to feel walked over. You want to stand up for yourself. But true strength doesn't always shout. Sometimes it smiles, breathes, and walks away. The Stoics believed in something called emotional detachment. Not coldness, not avoidance, but the ability to pause, reflect, and choose the higher path. So the next time someone insults you, don't take the bait. Don't hand over your peace for their chaos. Instead, be still. Let the silence do the talking. because as Epictetus said, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. You don't need to win the argument, you just need to win your own self-respect. And silence, that's often the most respectable answer of all. Case 9, when you're facing injustice. Now let's talk about one of the hardest moments to stay silent, when you're being treated unfairly, when the system is broken, when someone crosses a line, when what's happening is just not right. Your instinct screams, speak up, fight back, don't let this slide. And yes, there are times when I should speak up. The Stoics didn't preach silence as an excuse for passivity, but they did teach something deeper. Don't let injustice control your inner world. Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. In other words, when injustice comes, and it will, your greatest weapon isn't always outrage. It's composure, it's clarity, it's choosing your moment with wisdom. Let me give you a real-world example. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison under an unjust regime. He had every right to come out bitter, angry, ready to rage. But he didn't. Instead, he walked out with calm, with vision, with grace. And that grace helped heal a nation. That's Stoicism. That's silence used with intention. Now, maybe you're not leading a political revolution, but maybe your boss gives credit to someone else for your work, or someone lies about you and people believe it, or you're treated unfairly because of how you look, where you're from, or what you believe. You have every right to feel upset. But the Stoic way says, before you react, pause. Ask, is this the right time? Is this the most effective way? Will my words come from strength or from ego? Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is respond later when your emotions have cooled. Other times it's simply to rise above the noise, do your work with integrity, and let your consistency speak for itself. Silence in the face of injustice doesn't mean you agree with it. It means you're not letting it own you. You're choosing to act with purpose, not with panic. Think of it like this. If someone throws a fire at your feet and you throw your own fire back, everything burns. But if you pause, step back, assess the damage, and choose to build water systems, you become a peacemaker, not just a fighter. So next time injustice hits, don't react. Respond. Not with noise, but with noble silence, followed by deliberate, meaningful action. Let your voice come from a place of calm conviction, not emotional chaos. As Marcus Aurelius said, the best revenge is to be unlike him who did the injury. Be unlike the noise, be unlike the hate, be unlike the anger, be the example. Let your silence speak for your strength, and your actions speak for your soul. Silence, it's not just the absence of noise, it's a choice, a discipline, a strength. Through the lens of Stoicism and the timeless wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, we've explored 9 powerful moments where choosing silence is not only wise, but transformative. Whether it's during unfair criticism, in the presence of arrogance while navigating loss, or when facing injustice, your ability to remain calm, grounded, and silent when needed is a sign of deep inner strength. Remember, silence doesn't mean weakness, it means mastery. It means you've learned to lead your emotions, not be led by them. And in a world that often rewards the loudest voice in the room, you stand out by being the one who speaks with clarity and knows when not to speak at all. So here's a gentle challenge for you. The next time life hands you noise, pause, breathe, and choose the kind of silence that builds peace instead of conflict, character instead of ego. Thank you for spending this time with me. I hope these ideas offered something valuable, a new perspective, a moment of reflection, or just the permission to slow down. If any part of this video resonated with you, please consider giving it a like, not just to support the channel, but to help others discover it too. Feel free to leave a comment below which of the 9 situations spoke to you the most. Or maybe you've experienced a moment where silence changed everything. I'd truly love to hear your story. And if you'd like more content like this, thoughtful, grounded, and inspired by ancient wisdom, you're always welcome to subscribe. Until next time, stay calm, stay grounded, stay wise, and remember, you don't have to raise your voice to be heard.